I never expected a locked office would lead to a life-changing revelation about a playboy. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was like a storm brewing beneath the calm surface, waiting to crash into my life. I walked into the office, my heart pounding in my chest, filled with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. The atmosphere crackled with an unspoken tension, heavy, as though the world held its breath. I caught sight of that locked door. I always wondered what lay beyond it. The rumors were wild. They said it held secrets, dark secrets, about Dominic, the office's charming, reckless heartthrob. Everyone knew him, his laughter, his charm. But no one knew the whole truth. I felt the urge to discover what others dared not. Dominic was magnetic. With his perfectly tousled hair and an easy smile, he could convince anyone to lean in, to trust him. I'd seen the way he talked, how the whole office seemed to gravitate toward him. He was like the sun, dazzling, but dangerously hot. And every week, another girl fell for his spell. I stood by and watched, my heart both aching and repulsed. But something shifted. A frantic energy filled the air. My hands trembled as I approached that door, drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I leaned closer, straining to catch whispers of gossip, muffled voices behind the cold wood. I could almost hear the secrets sighing through the cracks. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. What lay on the other side? Was it scandalous photos? Hidden contracts? Evidence of his misdeeds? I could feel the weight of my decision. Behind that door was a world untouched, a realm where desire danced with danger. And just as I reached for the handle, a loud bang echoed from behind me. I froze. I turned slowly, heart racing, and locked eyes with Sarah, my best friend. Her expression was a mix of panic and confusion. She was my lifeline amid the chaos. "What are you doing?" she whispered, but it felt louder than a shout. The urgency jumped between us. Then I heard the key turning in the lock. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room beyond, a stark contrast to the buzzing energy of the office outside. My breath caught, and in that moment of uncertainty, Sarah darted forward, grasping my wrist. "Dominic could come back any second," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't be here." But something compelled me to step in. As I crossed the threshold, the air shifted. This was Dominic's sanctuary, a disarray of scattered papers and discarded coffee cups. The faint scent of cologne mingled with something more profound, something raw and unguarded that seemed to linger like a haunting memory. "Look," I said, trying to steady the tremor in my voice. "It's not just about him. It's about uncovering secrets. Maybe we can find out why he hides behind that charming exterior." Sarah sighed, a mix of fear and curiosity in her eyes. "You're playing with fire. What if you find something that changes how you see him forever?" As we ventured deeper into the room, the walls bore witness to countless untold stories, pictures stuck with faded tape, awards unrelated to this version of him. I froze at a photograph of a younger Dominic, a boyish smile stretched across his face, arms wrapped around an elderly man I assumed was his grandfather. There was no pretense in that image, just raw, honest affection. "What's this doing here?" I asked, feeling a sudden ache in my chest. "He never talks about his family. Maybe he's not as invincible as he wants everyone to believe," Sarah said, her eyes softening for a brief moment. But the vulnerability of that single photograph soon faded as I shifted my attention to a filing cabinet in the corner. Locked drawers beckoned like buried treasures waiting to be unearthed. I pulled at the handles, frustration bubbling within me. "If I could just find the key, we should leave," Sarah practically begged, glancing nervously at the door. Just a moment more, I pressed, unwilling to back down. I rifled through the desk scattered with notes, hoping to stumble upon a clue. Instead, I unearthed a slip of paper and invitation to an exclusive event. "It's tonight," I murmured, scrolling down the embossed lettering. A charity gala. Something sparked within me, a flicker of hope. Perhaps tonight, I could confront him directly. Perhaps, beneath the facade, there lay layers of his truth waiting to unfurl. "Please, let's go," Sarah pleaded. Her eyes glistened with concern. "This isn't safe." But suddenly, an unexpected sound, a soft knock at the door, sent ice through my veins. Panic surged. I glanced at Sarah, whose wide eyes reflected my own fear. The credentials of our mission drained like ink from a page, replaced by the heavy weight of danger. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. Silence hung in the air for a long moment before it broke. "It's me. Dominic." My heart raced. It was a collision of choices, of desires, as his voice seeped beneath the door. There was sincerity mixed in with the usual bravado. This was a moment I had been yearning for, yet it was enveloped in uncertainty. "What are we going to do?" said Sarah, her grip tightening. "Stay quiet," I replied, my pulse thrumming in my ears. If I opened that door, nothing would be the same. In this space of tension and unspoken things, a revelation awaited me, but so did the risk of everything I thought I knew collapsing. I leaned back against the desk, breathing in the charged atmosphere. It felt surreal, almost cinematic. I caught a glimpse of myself in the darkened glass of a framed Victoria girl, caught between the light of curious ambition and the shadows of lingering doubts. "Open the door," Dominic's voice urged, softer now. "I know you're in there." Fingers trembling, I positioned myself in front of the locked entrance. This was it. What would he reveal? Would he shatter my assumptions or further entangle me in a web of heartbreak? And as the key rattled in the lock, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. The door swung open, and the sudden light flooded the room. The storm that had been brewing promised to unleash more than mere revelations. It threatened to redefine everything I thought I understood about love, trust, and the man behind the playboy persona. Yet as my heart beat wildly in my chest, I discerned a glimmer of something more in Dominic's eyes, mingling with a truth that could either give hope or cause devastation. "Are you ready to talk?" he asked, but I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would unveil not just his secrets but my own. The room held its breath as Dominic stepped inside, his aura shifting just like the shadows at sunset, mysterious, disarming, a staggering mix of confidence and fragility. I wanted to scream at him for surprising us, for moments ago standing behind that door as if he were a guardian of secrets I had only begun to grasp. "Why were you in here?" he asked, his voice a low murmur, mixed with tension. He glanced from Sarah to me, uncertainty entering his usually steadfast gaze. "Dominic," I began, my own voice trembling as I reclaimed lost courage. "We don't need you to justify your intrusion," he interrupted, his expression hardening. "I want to know what you found." I caught Sarah's eye, a wordless agreement formed in that brief moment. "We found this." I held up the invitation, its edges crinkling in my clenched fist, revealing the truth without words. His posture shifted, something akin to embarrassment flashing in his eyes. "That charity gala it's not what you think," he stammered, the bravado that usually shielded him momentarily forgotten. "Then tell me," I urged, crossing the threshold of my bravery. I felt the weight of every unspoken word pressing down on us. "What are you hiding behind all this?" My heart raced, hoping for honesty, but fearing what it might bring. Dominic ran a hand through his tousled hair, a signal of his frustration and fear. "You think I'm some two-dimensional character, don't you? Just a playboy?" "No," I replied softly, treading carefully through the minefield of his defenses. "I think you're much more complicated than that. I think you're afraid." A pause hung thick in the air like a fragile glass orb, suspended yet precariously close to shattering. Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly, vulnerability flirted with anger as he processed my words. "But you don't understand the weight of it," he finally managed, voice filled with an emotional quake. "This gala, it's not charity. It's a facade, a way to cover up a lot of pain. My family's not what it seems." The statement hung between us, a revelation woven with strands of apology and sadness. "What do you mean?" The question slipped out before I could remind myself to proceed cautiously. "What happened? The moment felt electric, his gaze shifting downward, preventing me from witnessing the storm swirling within. It's personal, try me. I walked away from them. For years, I've distanced myself from their expectations, their judgments. Year after year of being the golden boy, maybe you need to face them, Sarah interjected, breaking the simmering tension. Maybe it's time to confront the truth. His eyes flicked to her, something imperceptible crossing his features. And risk everything I've built? My career, my image? Or gain something more valuable? I said gently, yourself. A flicker of hope sparked in me, a whisper of possibility that light might break through the labyrinthine walls he had built around himself. But the connection between us was tainted by hesitation. I sensed his resolve crumbling, yet he stood firm, caught in the dilemma of vulnerability versus invulnerability. Dominic turned towards the photos that adorned the walls, his expression softening momentarily as if the weight of his past collided with the present. You know, I often wonder what they would say if they knew who I truly was, who I had to become to survive. I took a cautious step closer. Maybe they'd love you more for your truth than your mask. My heart sank as uncertainty washed over him anew. He vacillated between wanting connection and fearing rejection. Just then, a ping from his phone broke the fragile momentum. Incoming message that transformed his expression into a mask of concern, a sense of urgency flooding the atmosphere. I have to take this. Dominic, wait. I called out, the sudden shift in our conversation snapping TI. The trust level seemed precariously close to tipping over the edge. As he reached the door, he glanced back, his eyes wrestling with conflicting emotions. I need you both to promise me something. No matter what I reveal, don't judge me. I'm a mess right now. Yet as he slipped out, a shadow of his mind still behind the door, it sent an unsettling ripple through my heart. I felt the pieces of our connection fragmenting, each confession threatening to draw lines between us instead of weaving them closer together. Alone with Sarah, I turned to her, the weight of the unfolding drama pressing upon us. What if he doesn't come back? What if he can't face this after all? Then we'll have to be there when he does. Whether he realizes it or not, he needs us. But we need to know what this is first. Sarah's determination anchored me momentarily, even as the uncertainty loomed between us. A sudden thought struck, a flicker in my mind that aligned with a painful truth. What if the truth he reveals isn't just about his family? What if it involves us, too? Just as the realization settled, the door swung open again, and with it came not just Dominic, but the echoes of a revelation that promised to change everything once more. He had a file in hand, breathless, like he had sprinted back from a distance that had felt too far. You need to see this, he breathed, and as he opened the folder, a single photograph tumbled out, shattering every assumption I had, throwing into jeopardy what I believed about him, and even more about myself. It was a picture of me, one I had never seen before, taken from the least expected of angles, almost intimate. The weight of its implications swept over me, dangling over the precipice of clarity and confusion. I had sought answers for him, but now it felt like my own truth was about to unravel too. The photograph lay trembling on the floor between us, pulsating with the weight of everything unspoken. I stared at my own image, captured in a moment that felt both vulnerable and foreign. It was taken from a distance, but the angle was too close, as if someone had been watching me without my knowledge. The moment was mundane, yet it held a truth I hadn't asked for, a truth that slithered beneath the surface of our precarious dance around feelings and realities. What is this? I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper, laced with confusion and a tinge of betrayal. Dominic dropped to his knees, reaching for the photo, his expression a tempest of panic and regret. I didn't want you to find out like this. I swear, it wasn't my intention. Then, what was your intention? Sarah interjected, her voice sharper, clear in its defense of both me and the boundary that felt in jeopardy. Is this why you've kept your distance? Because you've been watching us? No. Not like that, he protested, the urgency almost frantic. I was trying to protect you, to protect both of you. I didn't want you involved in this twisted game my family plays. By taking pictures of me? I asked, feeling anger sparking through the haze of confusion. Anger mixed with the unsettling realization that he knew more about me than I had ever thought. Listen. He rose, the fire in his voice rising to match mine. You don't understand. The gala, it isn't just a charity. It's a cover. It's everything they do to maintain their image. And I was trying to prevent you from becoming collateral damage in a fight you didn't choose. Colliding emotions swirled into a complicated pattern, fastening me in place like a lost kite caught in the wind. You think I'm just some girl to be protected? That I can't handle my truth? No, he said, his voice cracking. I think you're so much stronger than you realize. You deserve to know the whole story, but it's dangerous. They don't just photograph people to remember. They photograph to control the narrative. Dangerous how? Sarah pressed, her instincts driving her forward. What does that mean for the rest of us? There are things you don't know about my family, Dominic replied, his tone shifting to something quieter, more solemn. There are reasons I walked away, and if they find out I'm indirectly involved with either of you, they won't stop until they have what they want. It's how they operate. A cold dread clawed its way up my spine. What do they want? Everything. His voice was a whisper, full of defeat yet filled with a resolve that edged towards hope. They want control over me, and by extension, anyone connected to me. They won't let me walk away easily. If they see me faltering, they'll strike. In that moment, I felt the walls that we had constructed around our realities beginning to crack, exposing the vulnerable bits we had fought so hard to guard. Is that why you've been pushing us away? Because you're afraid we'll get hurt. It's more than that, he said, stepping closer. The air thickened with the gravity of his words. It's not just about me fighting them. It's about you being implicated in a dangerous game. I care about both of you. It's why I've struggled to be honest. Honest? I shot back, the bitterness rolling off my tongue like jagged ice. You think keeping secrets is honesty? He flinched, the pain of my words cutting deeper than I anticipated. I was fighting my own battles while trying to protect you from mine. Just then, my phone vibrated violently against my thigh, slicing through the tension like an unexpected storm. Glancing down, my heart seized an unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered, half expecting chaos. Is this? A voice crackled on the line, anxiety mingling with the unmistakable chill of familiarity. As I listened, my heart raced in sync with the words cascading from the receiver. I have information about Dominic's family. They know about you. We need to move fast. I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath me, the landscape of our reality reshaping itself in an instant. My pulse quickened as I caught Dominic's eye, his face morphed from anger to a dreadful realization, the color draining as the implications of my call settled uninvited between us. Who is this? I demanded, but the voice hung up abruptly, leaving only an echoed void that swallowed my ability to think rationally. Before either of us could digest the threat, there was a loud knock at the door, violent and demanding, echoing my spiraling thoughts. Open up. We know you're in there. A male voice boomed from the other side. Staring at Dominic as panic laced his features, realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. The world we had been navigating together was about to unravel in ways we had never anticipated, and the secrets Dominic sought to shield us from were barreling towards us like an inevitable storm. This was no longer just about uncovering his truth. It was about survival, and the choices we made would determine if we faced the tempest together or if it would tear us apart forever. The door rattled under the weight of their urgency, a sound that zeroed in on my heartbeat, matching its frantic rhythm. I could hardly breathe, the air thick with dread. Dominic's eyes were wide, fear flickering like a candle's flame, and in that moment, all the confusion, anger, and layered truths collided into raw terror. This was no longer about secrets. This was a full-blown crisis. Hide, Dominic hissed, his body shifting into a protective stance. They can't know you're here. Sarah was already darting towards the back of the room, moving with a swift grace that belied the chaos surrounding us. I hesitated, wanting to argue, wanting to stay by his side, but instinct propelled me forward. I ducked behind a desk, clinging to the cool wood for support, the photograph discarded on the floor like a forgotten relic of innocence. Open up. The voice was sharper now, a palpable threat. Or we'll break it down. Don't you dare, Dominic replied, his voice low and menacing. In not letting you in, for the briefest moment, silence hung in the air, an agonizing breath where hope threatened to flicker. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, a dull roar that drowned out everything else, the crashing waves of adrenaline, the weight of the decision to protect, to hide, to run away from the truth. "I'll call the police." One of the men threatened, the sound of a phone being dialed punctuating their words. "What do I do?" I whispered to Sarah, who crouched beside me, her eyes starting in search of an escape route. "Stay quiet," she urged, a whisper filled with both fear and determination. "Whatever he's involved in, we can't let them find us." Dominic's voice rose again, assertive yet trembling. "You have no right. You're not my family. You're nothing to me. Stay away." I could hear the pounding on the door escalating, each sound resonating like an unraveling thread tugging at the seams of my promise of safety. The hairs on my neck stood on end as the reality of Dominic's world pressed in around me. How had we reached this point, a moment defined not by connection or daring, but by shadows and threats? Footsteps echoed ominously outside, the sound morphing from distant to near, each step a countdown filled with dread. I wanted to reach for him, to assure him that no matter what he had kept hidden, we would face this together, but the moment was brutal and unyielding. There was no time for reassurances. He was fighting a war he hadn't enlisted me in, and all I could do was follow the instinct to survive. "Sneak out the back," Sarah whispered again, her voice barely audible. "Get to my car. I'll hold them off." No. Dominic reached for her, urgency spilling from his lips. "You can't." Her expression turned fierce enough to instill hope despite the fear electrifying the stale air. "You think I'm gonna stand by while they rip apart our lives? I won't let you take this alone." The door bent under another blow, the frame shuddering ominously. I glanced at the photograph again, a distant reminder of the yet unwritten chapters of our lives. But the past had no power here. The present hung heavy as a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. As seconds turned to eternities, I seized a moment, pushing myself up and folding into Dominic's space. "We can run together. We don't have to fight alone." Dominic's eyes searched mine, flooded with torment and gratitude. "I won't let them hurt you. We'll figure this out." I could hardly believe the words as I spoke them. Part of me wanted to scream at him to just tell me everything, but this wasn't about clarity, it was about survival. "What is he talking about? What's going on?" Sarah demanded, her intensity drawing us into the present once more. We couldn't go back, but we could devise a path forward. The door shook under their weight again, the sound reverberating with a new kind of urgency. "I need your help," I said, clutching Dominic's arm, steadying myself in the chaos. "I don't care if your family is dangerous. I care about you." Just then, a loud crash resounded as the door finally buckled under the pressure, splintering as it flung open to reveal a group of grim-faced men. Their eyes searched the room, cold and calculating, landing on Dominic with the force of an avalanche. "There you are," one of them sneered, a sharpened edge to his voice. "Time to come home, Dominic." The weight of that statement dropped like a lead anchor, shredding the hope that had ignited between us. I squeezed Dominic's hand, feeling the energy pulsing through our connection. This wasn't the end, it was just the start of something new and uncertain. But as a heavy silence enveloped us in that moment of revelation, a sickening twist of fate took hold with the next words aimed not at Dominic, but directed towards me. "And you," he said, his gaze piercing. "The girl he's been keeping secrets from, you'll be coming with us too." The room seemed to shrink, closing in on my breath as I registered the words spilling from the man's lips like a dark prophecy. "You'll come with us too." My mind raced, skidding over the implications, grasping at threads of possibility that felt more like chains binding me to this nightmarish reality. Dominic's grip tightened around my hand, a silent promise that whispered in the depths of my soul. His eyes, typically so vibrant and alive, now flickered with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. There was a mixture of dread and something else, an underlying resolve that hinted at the weight of the battle yet to come. "Get away from her," he shouted, a veneer of defiance rimming his voice as he stepped forward, placing himself shoulder to shoulder with me, as if he could shield me from whatever darkness lay ahead. The men exchanged looks, the kind that spoke volumes without a single word. "This doesn't concern you," one said, his eyes narrowing into slits of menace. It was only a faint tremor in his voice that revealed the flickering fear of the unexpected. Everything shifted then, the audacity of the moment rising like smoke, thickening the air around us. "You don't know who you're dealing with, Dominic," the leader snapped, stepping inside, his presence demanding and overpowering. "It's not just about you anymore. Your choices have consequences." My heart raced, the hard clenching of fear unfurling into something more, a hatred for this reality that sought to tear us apart. But in that unexpected moment, something else emerged, the gravity of vulnerability wrapped in our shared fear tempered with stubborn determination. "I am not going anywhere with you," I found myself saying, my voice steadier than I felt. Glancing back at Sarah, still poised to defend us, her eyes bore a flicker of admiration. The tiniest sliver of hope glimmered in the form of unspoken solidarity. "We would fight." The leader studied me, an air of amusement curling at the edges of his lips. "Cute. But you'll change your tunes soon enough." Dominic turned, forcing my gaze back to him. His expression heralded a storm. "You think you can just take her? You don't get to decide her life for her. Is it really hers to choose when you can't even take care of yourself?" The sneer dripped from the man's voice as he coaxed out Dominic's deepest fears with mere words. My stomach nodded. Were we truly in this mess because of decisions not my own? The distant memory of my own familial obligations danced just outside my consciousness. Attention I had escaped only to be unwittingly pulled back into another web of chaos. "Stay with me," Dominic whispered fiercely, leaning closer, his breath warm and calming against my skin. "No matter what happens, don't let go." The words soothed my frayed edges and ignited a fire within me. I promise," I vowed, realizing then the weight of our connection pressed into something monumental. That in the face of the unraveling, our fight was for each other first, despite the shadows lurking beyond. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside, shouting, scrambling feet. A cacophony of chaos that pulled us away from the intimate cocoon we had woven despite our perilous situation. The door swung wider and the tide of men surged into the room, ready to ensnare us. Then, unexpectedly, I heard another voice cut through the noise, sharp and vibrant. Distant, yet urgent. "Get your hands off her." My heart plummeted. It was familiar yet foreign. I turned just in time to see another figure emerging, a silhouette that paused in the doorway, eyes flashing with fierce recognition. "Carla, my younger sister, Carla," I shouted, a mix of surprise and fear suffusing my voice. What was she doing here? She was a specter of safety amidst my turmoil. "Run. Now!" she yelled, rushing past the flank of men and into the room, her tiny frame a beacon of defiance. I felt a rush of rage pouring over me, knowing she shouldn't have been caught up in this, but her fearlessness grounded me. Before I could process the chaos, I glimpsed the violent shift in the dynamic. The men hesitated, the surprise and confusion flickering like a candle in the wind. "You once started," eyes darting between Carla and the tension between Dominic and the others. This was not just about me. This was our family, embroiled in something dangerous that left scars deep enough to navigate worlds apart. "Get back. You don't know what you're dealing with." I lost my voice in the roar of my emotions, and suddenly, the reality of the moment pierced through. It wasn't just my life hanging in the balance anymore. It was my sister's as well. In a split second, everything shifted. A phone shattered against the wall, dominoing into renewed chaos. Someone lunged, someone yelled. But amid the bedlam, my heart clutched around the truth of our closeness. And just as quickly, I saw Dominic take a step back, shoving me to the side as a new threat arrived, causing both relief and terror to crash together. Another group entered, unexpected allies or further danger. It was impossible to tell. As chaos enveloped us, a scream echoed, the sound rising above the fray as a vision of what was to come, a blinding opening of shadows released. I clung to Dominic, desperation clawing at my throat. "Together?" I asked, half pleading in fear. I needed reassurance that we would find our way through. Despite all the ominous uncertainties, his gaze met mine, fierce determination kindling in the depths. "Together," he affirmed, though my stomach twisted with the unease of the coming storm. Then the world plunged into darkness, the realization that we were not as secure as we had hoped, leaving all our lives suspended on the thin edge of the knife. The atmosphere felt electric, thick with impending dread as chaos erupted around us like thunderclouds ready to burst. I could hardly distinguish faces amidst the turmoil, the men darting forward with dark intentions, blood coursing through their veins, mingling fast with my rising panic. Beside me, Dominic was a steadfast rock, his grip unyielding even as the world unraveled. "Carla, here," I called, instinctively reaching for my sister, but she was already where she needed to be, fiercely holding her ground. My heart swelled with admiration and trepidation. How could she be so brave in the face of looming peril? "Stay behind me," Dominic shouted, pulling me closer. But I refused to let fear overshadow the urgency. Our family was at stake. Beside me, a man roared, his voice rising above the din. "Stick together. Make this easy, and we'll get out without anyone getting hurt." The threat dripped from his words, and I could hear the anxious tremors in his tone, as if he were trying to convince himself as much as us. "Don't listen to him," Carla shouted back, her small stature suddenly feeling larger than life. "We're not going anywhere with you. This isn't some game." Her bravery ignited something in me, a flicker of rebellion. I could fight back against this chaos, not just for myself, but for all of us. We were a family holding on against the tide. "Dominic," I whispered urgently, "we need a plan. We can't let them trap us." "I know," he said tightly, his determination unwavering. But I could sense the burden crashing over him, aging him a year in seconds, the weight of responsibility pressing down like the sky was made of bricks. Then, without warning, one of the men lunged at Carla, cutting through the tension, and time fractured around us. Our world spun into slow motion. I watched in horror, my heart lodged in my throat, as she ducked just in time, barely evading the grip of a powerful hand. "Back off," Dominic roared, and like a wave, he surged forward, leading with an intensity that startled even me. "You'll regret that." Before I could react, I felt tremors of energy swirling around us, a collective apprehension that was both familiar and new, an undercurrent of desperation that threatened to pull us under. I stood frozen, but the fight within me urged me to move, to act. "Together," I murmured to myself, feeling the surge of strength palpable even in my trembling limbs. As the melee exploded behind me, shifting gears almost violently, redemption flickered in the distance like lightning dancing through dark clouds. One of the newcomers, the unexpected allies I never thought would arrive, was a brittle figure I recognized almost immediately. The adrenaline coursing through my veins dulled my senses, but the striking silhouette broke through the fog. "Marcus, stand down," he shouted, stepping into the fray with authority that sent palpable waves through the room, his voice commanding and assertive. It was a desperate bid, but he had power in unplanned alliances, and the men hesitated once more. "Marcus?" I breathed, surprised that their rivalry had borne this moment of unity. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you," he replied, his eyes piercing into mine, sparking something buried deep. "We have to get you out of here before it's too late." In that instant, my heart fragmented. A lifetime of complicated feelings surged up, a history of youthful anger and misunderstood moments crashing into this dire situation. We had once been close, but life had chosen different paths for us, leaving jagged fragments behind. Yet here he was, standing beside Dominic, ready to help, but the clarity of hope was fleeting. The leader among the hostile men sneered, his eyes flickering with malevolence. "You're just delaying the inevitable, Marcus. She belongs to us now." The words were a knife, a cutting realization that they didn't see me as an individual, but as collateral damage in their twisted game. Just then, a new realization dawned like a sharp knife slicing through the dark. The escalation of stakes was shrouded in something more sinister, but before I could process the layers of deception unraveled before us, I saw Dominic once more, standing shoulder to shoulder with Marcus, both filled with protective fury. A bond of kinship grew in the face of danger, two warriors now united for the same cause. "Get us out," I pleaded silently, knowing they were about to face the storm together. In the tumult, I reached for Carla, pulling her protectively to my side. Our shared vulnerability morphed into a fierce bond, the kind that had defined our sisterhood through thicker and thinner than this moment could ever attempt to cut. And then, with an unexpected twist, the leader suddenly turned, confidence waning. Leave them. Our real priority is just beginning. Like a dam breaking, a new wave of dread crashed over me, spilling into an incomprehensible chaos that seared the room, the very ground we stood on. I realized with horror it wasn't just about us anymore. There was something bigger at stake, echoes reverberating beyond our immediate world, a prophecy hinted by those ominous words. "No!" Marcus shouted, and the tight knot of fear began to expand into panic. Being drawn into their game felt inevitable, and in the whirlpool of confusion, as shadows danced through broken light, I felt my breath hitch. There was another player entering the scene, an unexpected truth creeping into existence. A figure emerged at the edge of the fracture, the last person I'd ever suspect could be part of this tangled web, someone I thought I'd lost to the past completely. The realization crashed through me like thunder, shaking my resolve to its core. What if they were ultimately tied to our pasts in a way we hadn't foreseen? As the chaos swirled toward its inevitable conclusion, I stood rooted, my pulse racing. "Dominic," I gasped, the weight of uncertainty looming heavy in the air. "What if they want something more than us?" His face twisted in confusion. "What do you mean?" But just then, the shadows shifted once more, an unearthly truth poised to reveal itself. The answer hung in the darkness like a pendulum ready to strike, and I could feel the weight of destiny bearing down upon us. I knew a storm was brewing, not just in the chaotic rush of bodies around us, but deep within the churning abyss of my own fears. I glanced at Dominic and Marcus, their sturdy forms standing tall against the growing tempest, and felt a pang of gratitude mixed with confusion. Could the very men I had once grappled with emotionally now become our protectors in the face of this desperate danger? The room was an echo chamber of chaos, all outlined in harsh contrasts of light and shadow. The flickering fluorescent fixtures above cast sinister shadows over the adversaries, accentuating their menacing postures. My heart raced, pumping uncertainty into my veins. What did that leader mean by "our real priority is just beginning"? I clutched my sister to my side, our eyes locking in a shared understanding of dread. I had always promised to protect her, but with each passing second, the darkness felt more all-encompassing. Memories flooded my mind, memories I thought I had tucked away for good, off laughter and whispers in the night, secrets shared over dinner, and the sisterly bond woven thicker through years of trials. Together, I murmured again, as if the repetition could ground me in a moment where everything else was falling apart. Suddenly, a fierce voice cut through my thoughts. "Enough of this." The leader barked, his fury illuminating the treachery within each word. He stepped forward, breaking the fragile barrier of safety we had formed. "You're wasting time. The clock is ticking, and our plans don't wait for idiots who forget their place." I felt Dominic tense beside me, ready to spring into action. His protective nature surged like a flame, igniting my own resolve. However, just as I prepared to muster my own bravery to confront whatever was coming, the door to the room creaked open. In that moment, time seemed to still. A figure stepped through, cloaked in shadows yet radiating with an undeniable presence. My heartbeat shifted from fear to confusion, for the silhouette was unmistakable. Renee, my childhood friend, the one person I thought I had lost to the fog of childhood dreams and the complexities of adolescence. "Renee?" My voice trembled, disbelief mingling with recognition. The years had spun a web of distance between us, yet here she was, stepping into this mayhem as if she had intended to arrive at the precise moment I needed an anchor. Dominic and Marcus exchanged puzzled glances, a brief flicker of distraction cutting through the tension as they took in the sight of her. But the tension was thicker than quicksilver. The leader's eyes flared with malice as he locked onto her. "You shouldn't have come here." A strange sense of empowerment radiated from Renee as she met his stare, unafraid. "They're not the ones who should be worried," she declared defiantly, her voice steady. An air of authority had molded her into someone else entirely. "What are you doing here?" I gasped, relief mingling with confusion. Did she know the danger we were in? Could she possibly understand what lay ahead? I came to find you, she answered, her gaze deepening with an urgency that sent shivers up my spine. There were things I should have told you, things about our past, things I should have warned you about. The atmosphere shifted yet again, as if the air had thickened with unsaid words, the secrets of our shared history inching closer to the surface. What do you mean? I pressed, my heart skipping as hope mingled with the terror of that room. The leader's voice cut through our intimate moment, brimming with venomous contempt. You're wasting your breath, girl. They'll never understand. This isn't your battle. Suddenly, the scene erupted in a cacophony of shouts as the continuous chaos threatened to consume us whole. Dominic surged forward again, prepared to protect, while Marcus scanned the room, looking for any sign of a way out. Yet, Renee's unwavering presence brought a stirring hope that began to flicker in the stale air. Trust me, she urged, stepping forward to reclaim the space and command attention. I know things that can change everything. My heart raced. Yet again. What was happening? Why had she hidden away all these years, and now, in the heat of the moment, was she stepping back into my life with revelations? The feelings from our childhood, once buried, surged forth in a song that echoed the harmony of possibilities amidst broken notes. Renee. What do you know? The words slipped out before I could stop them, urgency filling the air between us, but before she could respond, the leader's maniacal grin suggested dark amusement. You think she can save you? She's as foolish as the rest of you. With that, he gestured to his men, and chaos erupted anew. The air caught fire, and in an instant, hands were flying, bodies colliding. As I braced for impact, I glimpsed the unyielding resolve in Renee's eyes, a reflection of the bravery Carla had shown. Follow me, she shouted, grabbing my hand firmly, anchoring me amidst the storm. But then, amongst the turmoil, a sinister laughter haunted the air, an undercurrent of looming threats that swayed the balance of our precarious existence. I felt as though we were standing on the edge of a cliff, a leap into the unknown cavern of truths beckoning, and in that moment, the nagging suspicion clawed at my insides. What if the truths Renee carried could change everything, not just for us, but for the entire web of lives intertwined in this mess? What if, in this chaos, she brought not just answers, but deeper secrets that could sway our fate forever? Renee. I screamed amidst the roars of agony surrounding us, the panic above drowning out my hope, when suddenly, the world swerved, and another figure crashed through the room, the final thread in this tapestry of chaos, and someone I had thought was lost to time. I couldn't comprehend it all, my heart racing as reality twisted and turned. Each revelation felt like a loaded gun, a new potential disaster waiting to be unleashed at the very moment I dared to breathe. As the storm surged forward, I knew one thing for certain. We were heading straight into a maelstrom, one that was poised to unravel secrets rooted deep within our pasts, promising to reshape our lives forever. The weight of the unfolding chaos pressed down on my chest, constricting my breath. Renee's hand held mine tightly, her grip an anchor amidst the swirling vortex of primal fear and adrenaline. I turned to face the deranged leader, whose cruel laughter reverberated against the walls like a perverse song. Shadows danced erratically as bodies clashed, and the air pulsed with the clash of hope and despair. My mind raced, battling through half-formed notions of what I was witnessing. How could this be happening? Renee's return felt like a mirage, a fleeting glimpse of salvation in an otherwise relentless storm. Yet as everything unraveled around us, the uncertainty of her motivations dangled like a lone thread stretched out. A misstep here could unravel us all. Renee, we need to get out of here. I shouted over the tumult, my voice barely reaching her ears. But her fierce gaze held firm, unfaltering and resolute in a way that ignited sparks of hope within me. I won't leave without telling you, she insisted, her voice cutting sharply through the chaos, anchoring us in this singular moment. What I know can change everything, but we need to move. Now, as she pulled me forward through the thrashing crowd, I caught glimpses of Dominic and Marcus behind me, their expressions a mixture of determination and concern. I could sense their instincts, their fierce desire to shield Yuzel while knowing that the weight of the world could not be lifted with force alone. There were questions in my mind like a cacophony of lyrics crying for attention, each lyrical thought demanding to be voiced, each pushing at the walls of my confined perspective. Without warning, the room shook, and a figure loomed into view, a man I recognized instantly. A mix of shock and disbelief hit me like a tidal wave. "Caleb?" I exclaimed, my voice a strangled whisper as he stumbled forward, breathless and wild-eyed. Memories surged back, the carefree laughter of indulgent summers and stumbling through late-night conversations, painted with the brush of lost years. "Get down," he yelled, urgency coursing through his words as he threw himself protectively across us just as a dark shape lunged towards us from the crowd. The impact sent vibrations through my skull, and I was spun into chaos, my heart pounding in a wild tempo of fear. What was Caleb doing here? What could he possibly contribute to this storm now unfolding? "Renee, what is he doing here?" I managed to gasp, adrenaline still thrumming through my veins, intensifying my need to understand. He's part of this," she replied, her voice steady. "He was supposed to," she broke off abruptly, a flicker of indecision haunting her expression. What was she holding back? Part of what? I pressed, but my question was cut short as the leader aimed his glare directly at Caleb, his smile both infuriating and maddeningly triumphant. "You're a fool for coming back here," he sneered. "You think you can hide behind them? You miscalculated, didn't you?" The pit of dread in my stomach deepened as Caleb squared his shoulders, holding the weight of his past like a shield. "This ends now," he said, desperation and resoluteness intertwining in his tone, spurring a flicker of bravery in my heart. But just as quickly, the malice in the leader's gaze twisted, something dark and sinister within the space. "Does it?" the leader challenged, his tone dripping with malicious intent. "There's no escaping your past. You all think you can rewrite the rules, but the truth lurks in shadows, waiting to resurface." My world narrowed in on those words, wrapping me in a vice grip of unease. Subconsciously, I squeezed Renee's hand harder, hoping the contact would dislodge whatever dark truth threatened to unfurl in our midst. "What truth?" I questioned, my heart recklessly racing in the light of his taunt. It was as if my inquiry ignited a spark. The leader's eyes sparkled with twisted delight. He glanced between Caleb and Renee, probing for weaknesses. "Secrets, dear friends," he purred, reveling in the power of his knowledge. "Secrets that will shatter your illusions, making everything you thought real nothing more than ashes. Are you ready for that?" "Ready for what you don't know?" Caleb stepped forward, a fighter refusing to yield. "You think you can scare us?" "We've faced worse." As if in response, the leader raised his hand, and in that singular moment, the air shifted. An underlying tension coiled like a spring, ready to snap. "But you don't know everything, do you?" he taunted, casting a knowing glance toward Renee. "Shut up," I shouted, desperation spilling into my voice. The walls of my resolve threatened to collapse, having just begun to wrestle against the truth that so desperately tried to claw itself back to the surface. What secrets lay beneath those haunting words? Would the revelations he was implying threaten to tear us apart again like it did before? In that heartbeat, time lost all semblance of order. A blinding rush forced me forward into the fray, a tangled web of limbs and desperate movements, but I kept reaching for those who mattered most: Renee, Caleb, Dominic, and Marcus. Somehow, through this insatiable storm, we had to pull through, but even in the depths of the chaos, as we struggled to break free, the ghastly revelation that the leader had insinuated lingered like a noxious specter, a dark promise of betrayal, of loyalty questioned, ready to shatter our desperation for unity. I didn't know what awaited us, but dread settled coldly in my gut. A curtain was drawn back, revealing depths we dared not explore, and I had begun to fear the unveiling. What awaited us beyond the threshold of revelations we might not be prepared to face? The storm raged on, and whatever monster lay in wait was ready to emerge. The storm of chaos whirled around us, a tempest that felt otherworldly. Each pulse of energy surged like a flicker of lightning, threading through the darkness as shapes shifted, intentions clashed, and secrets threatened to tumble like dominoes. I stood in the eye of that storm, the core where hope and despair mingled uneasily, threatening to eclipse everything I thought I knew. "Renee," I shouted, my voice breaking. What do you mean? What are your secrets? The chaos morphed, twisting around me, but deep down, shadows danced with familiar fierce deep-rooted anxiety that clawed at my core. The leader's malicious glee grew palpable, vibrating through every word. You think uncovering the past will save you? He taunted, his eyes glinting with a dark truth. Around me, breaths were measured, hearts racing, and yet the pulse of uncertainty loomed, thick and suffocating. I turned again to Dominic, his face washed with fierce resolve tempered by confusion. There had been a time when his charm masked the complexities of his life, but now those layers lay bare before us, and the expectations of his family pressed down like the weight of the world. "Renee, please," I breathed, desperate to bridge the chasm between us. "Whatever you know, we can face it together." She hesitated, her shaking hand reaching out only for a moment before retreating. "You don't understand. Our past is tangled with theirs," she murmured, trembling with both fear and fierce protection. "What you're facing now was set in motion long ago." A whirlwind of recollections flashed in my mind, disparate moments crossing paths, a childhood game shared, laughter mingling with masked secrets. But all of that now felt like a fragile foundation on which we had built our lives, and it now threatened to crumble into nothingness. "Enough of this." The leader's voice cut through the tension, sharp and ruthless. "This isn't a game anymore. Your history is nothing but a puppet show." He gestured towards Caleb. "And you're just another puppet trying to break free." In that moment, an instinctual fire blazed within me, igniting fierce determination. "We're not victims of your game," I exclaimed, feeling our shared strength bolster the tremble in my voice. "You think you control the narrative, but we're not here for your entertainment." Caleb surged forward, a beacon of intrusion. "I'm here to end this," he said, fists clenched, defiance laced with desperation. "You don't run our lives anymore." At the brink, the atmosphere split open, a fracture exposing the true turmoil that lay beneath the surface. I felt the tension thicken, an unspeakable bond forged in fear and determination among us, here connected journeys colliding amidst this battle for our freedom. I reached instinctually for Dominic's hand, clasping it tightly. In that singular pull of energy, love swirled between us, threading through chaos. "Together," I whispered, grounding him in that moment, hoping it would resonate against the tumult around us. It was a fragile promise, a lifeline against an unfolding fate that spiraled beyond our control. The leader's laughter echoed coldly. Then, as another figure stepped forward, my heart skipped. A person cloaked in fabric and mystery, with an aura charged with familiarity. "You don't need to fight this battle alone," she spoke, her voice regaining power. Dahlia, our former mentor with a history buried deep, her presence sending a pulse through the battered room. "I've watched from afar, knowing the connections running deeper. The truth matters, yes, but we have the power to shift the tide together." The room felt electric, the air crackling with possibilities. I watched as the leader faltered slightly, taken aback by her sudden dominance, a moment of hesitation before he swallowed it down, gripping onto the illusion of control. The darkness within him recoiled against the glimmer of unity blooming before us. Fists raised, ready to fight, but something powerful was rising within me, a wave of resolve birthed not from fear, but from the clarity of knowing that absolution always followed reckoning. "Let's end this," I shouted, feeling the full weight of my voice unite the crowd. "We don't bow down to your threats. We make our own choices. We are more than what you see." The transformation of our energy cascaded through the room, igniting the embers of past bonds, old defenses shattering in its wake. "Let's reclaim our lives," I shouted, bolstered by the fiery determination that sparked in me. Bodies rallied across the expanse, a collective swarm that surged against the tumults of the enemy that ensnared us. In that empowering moment, the surrounding darkness slinked back, and clarity emerged. Dahlia stepped in front, forming an unyielding barrier against the chaos. "Together," she affirmed, and suddenly hope surged and combined under the weight of that truth, a kaleidoscope of us against them lighting the battle lines. Then came the unexpected unraveling of the truth, the secrets born in the core of our existence revealing themselves at last. "You'll regret awakening the past." The leader roared, but his authority began to slip as our unity strengthened. The shadows receded slightly, with every affirmation of our collective fight sitting heavy like a thunderous cloud ready to break. "Anything said here today will do nothing," I retorted, a newfound courage swelling within me. "You've held our past hostage long enough. It's time we own our futures." I end that fierce conviction. The winds shifted, swirling toward what lay ahead, the air invigorated with possibility as we moved forward, unshackled from the chains of others' narratives. A deeper connection birthed in truth emerged from that moment, carrying with it the essence of resilience and hope. The past had etched scars deep within, but it would no longer define us. We would become the authors of what would come. As the shadows flickered and chaos gave way to clarity, my heart surged with relentless love wrapped in determination. There was power in shared truths, woven into our very fabric as a united front, ready to take on the world. And so, at the precipice of battle, I remembered deeply what brought us all together: the beauty in choosing vulnerability, forging bonds anew amidst the despair. That the very secrets we had hidden could become the strength that propelled us beyond the storm, creating an unbreakable force. "Now," I said fiercely, as the air charged around us, "let's rewrite our story together." In that moment, anticipation hung heavy, electrified with the peering dawn, the bond we had fought for soaring as shadows dissipated. The stage was set, and as we stepped into that light, I knew that no matter what scars we carried, we were ready. We would reclaim our past to summon our futures, an eternal echo born from love unyielding and hope undying. And with that final thought resonating amidst our roaring hearts, I stood, hand in hand with Dominic, ready for everything that awaited on the other side. Even if shadows lingered, together we would step forward, an unbreakable force of dreams forged in fire.